Hello. Where are you, Lila? Where am I?
You're talking.
We're both
faster.
lost.
We're lost. Get that out of there.
I jumped the gun.
Okay, look at that. We did it. We got here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Welcome to Wednesday. How are you, Pat?
I'm good. I'm very excited to have come off of an actual protest. I touched grass, as the grifting accusers like to say, touch some grass or something. But then when you do, it's like, oh, but somebody at your event is wrong and evil. So
they once voted poorly on some measure in 1986. Where were you? What'd you do? Tell us all about it.
So I was at the Capitol. We were protesting for Medicare for All. The impetus for the event was Danny I always pronounce his last name wrong. Desnoyer.
Yeah.
Yes. His son died because the insurance companies denied him something that cost like $20 that could have kept him alive, and he killed himself. Anyway, the protest was very well done. It was very, very well organized. There were doctors there, people who've been fighting for Medicare for all in the state for decades, for universal health care, at least for decades, and some great speakers. Really nice to see a lot of familiar faces. Sukuru organized the event. So she was there, and just, it mixes you with some optimism and some sadness at the same time that we're making so little progress, and in the middle of a pandemic, that we're not closer to Medicare for all. It's really a pox on anyone in politics.
Yeah, so it truly is. That incremental change they keep promising us is ever elusive. But I am, as always, so impressed and inspired by those of you who go out. And obviously I do sometimes also. I did not this time, but thank you for doing that and for doing a live stream of it, which is fantastic. And it is up on our YouTube channel, but I know we're going to cut it into smaller bits so you can kind of focus on each speaker. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I hate video editing, but I will get this done within the week. And
okay, everyone, did you hear that? We got to hold them to it. Yeah. Well, that's
how was your week?
Hey, thanks for asking. So the reason I missed it was because I had a birthday on Saturday the 9th. I'm officially older than Zach's dad, I think, from last week. But it was a great birthday. I ate and drank everything that passed my eyes and had fun with my husband and my younger son, and my mom's in town. We had a great time. I did get a really special birthday gift. I just wanted to share with everybody. It was my only birthday gift, and I love it.
That is so creepy and awesome at the same time. I think I would love that. I wouldn't want to bring a stranger over.
I hate it. I mean, I love Jaws. Jaws is my absolute favorite movie. I will tune into if it's ever on any channel, even if they're going to be commercials. I watch it from wherever it is. I love it, love it, love it. But I'm getting excited to strip those sheets because it was a fun gag gift, and I'm ready for my more mature sheets to come back and bedspread.
Never.
Because I'm young at heart like that.
Yeah, Ren and Stimpy next or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That even that ages us, I think. People don't even probably know who that is.
I mean, I know, and I'm seeing some jerk off here who happens to be my brother saying happy 60th, which is not even close. Thanks so much. But thank you all. Thank you all for wishing me a happy birthday and showing up. I am trying so hard to see all the comments, and thank you, but my eyesight, I need my readers. But we have a really good fun show today. So what do you think? Should we get cracking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not good at small talk, so let's roll the wheel and drink too much and say some stupid
Exhibit
shit.
A. Okay, let's go. Let's see that wheel. What do we have on it today? And hello to
Let's
everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm seeing everybody up here. Thank you. Thank you.
cheers.
Yeah, you want to All right.
We're back.
Oh, wow. Look at those
Straight to the wheel.
colors. Look at that. What do we have this week? You know, it's that French saying, plus ça change, plus la même chose. And every week we are doing the same thing because somehow with this, you know, Democratic Congress, Democratic president, nothing changes unless it gets worse. So we got hope in climate change, flying with COVID, the Dem blame game, people power, our one source of inspiration. Meta don't care. That's good. That's harder to say than it was to write. And World War III, baby, and lots of shots.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. So first off, what was this French saying I've never heard?
Plus ça change. The more things change, the more they're the same. Plus ça change.
Okay.
Plus la même chose. And that is the whole deal. I mean, pretty much we could recycle every single week of the last year has just been sadly the same and just steps worse in the worst direction. So,
well, yeah, every week we can keep on climate change and COVID on the wheel and the Dem blame game and people power because people are actually fighting back and we're winning some shit. So, I mean, this could be like 4 repeated wheel segments because, you know, anyway, let's spin the wheel.
Let's spin that wheel, baby.
What do you think?
Yeah, baby. Oh, we were so close. We were so close. Luckily, we pre-gamed a little bit. So I can handle one segment before we get to the shots. All right. Tell me about Medicare, Medicare. What's happening with our most progressive FDR president ever? Tell us about what he is doing to Medicare.
Well, he's obviously expanding it so that we can all have health care.
Which was an option.
First off, that was an option. I mean, in the middle of a pandemic, if we're not even expanding Medicare like 5 years, I mean, this is like the most basic progressive stuff. It's
actually
there
just
are no
the
excuses.
basic like developed nation stuff, right? Like we are the only wealthy nation that does not have some form of universal health care, and they won't even give it to us in the middle of a global pandemic when 1 million of our citizens have perished.
And just think, I mean, Biden can literally wave his pen and sign and change the age to qualify for Medicare. So in the middle of a pandemic, you think how many people, just adding 5 years to that, how many lives would that have saved? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but just 5. I mean, that's not unreasonable to make it easier for most vulnerable people.
And we know that before COVID, 68,000 people every year died and 500,000 people went bankrupt because they did not have, I mean, I hate saying access to healthcare because it sounds like I'm doing their right-wing talking points, but they couldn't get healthcare because they were denied by our violent healthcare insurance lobbyist groups. So that's what Dems are upholding right now.
So I think we should show the video of what Biden is doing, which is I think you are hinting at me pushing that button earlier.
Go ahead and push that button.
Here we go. I don't know. There's probably a tag on it, but somebody else composed this video summarizing the
I think it's from David Sirota.
The Medicare privatization scheme developed under President Trump is now being expanded under Biden and is forcing hundreds of thousands of seniors onto new private Medicare plans without their consent. The new program adds a private sector third party between patients and Medicare services. While Medicare Advantage patients may choose to sign up for their private insurance plans, patients are now being enrolled in these direct contracting plans without their informed informed consent.
I received an email from my physician asking me to sign up for something that would make it easier for them to give me better care. In order to find out what it exactly was that he wanted me to sign up for, I had to start the signing process without knowing what I was signing up for.
Gordon was able to get out of the plan, but others have not been so lucky. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal recently noted that seniors in traditional Medicare may be auto-aligned to a direct contracting plan if any primary care physician they visited in the past 2 years is affiliated with that plan.
Many, probably most beneficiaries in the traditional Medicare program, as opposed to the Medicare Advantage program, are in traditional Medicare because they didn't want to be in a plan run by an insurance company.
If you don't like it, once you find out about it, your only way out at that point is to find yourself a new doctor.
They tried to enroll me in a DCE. I was absolutely stunned.
In 2020, the leadership of DCE contractor Clover Health donated $500,000 to the main super PAC for Senate Democrats, while the company's financier donated $250,000 to the Biden Victory Fund. One Medical, which employed Suzanne Gordon's doctor, is backed by the Carlyle Group, a prodigious donor to both parties. Biden enjoyed Thanksgiving dinner last year at the $30 million Nantucket home of Carlyle co-founder David Rubenstein.
When Medicare passed in 1965, there was absolutely no intention to enrich the insurance industry, but that's exactly what is happening now.
I mean, you know, the crazy thing is people were warned. This is who Biden has always been for 4 decades. He tries to privatize these social goods, that and Social Security. But we were told, don't look backwards. Don't look backwards. Listen to the lies that are coming out of his mouth now, not his actual history, like not his actions, and push him left. And none of that's happened. And there is no pushback on this. So, you know, I'm sure you've all noticed that just recently, everyone's tweeting about Medicare for all. For a year and a half, the Democrats, the progressive Democrats in Congress have not been tweeting about it. They've been silent. When Biden came into office, they stopped talking about it. But now, because everybody knows it's popular across the whole political spectrum, and Biden and the Democrats are about to get trounced in the midterms, now they're starting to talk about it again.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to run a campaign instead of a country right now, in my opinion. You know, that's what they're doing. And when they get criticized, when their poll numbers look bad, their defense is, well, you know, we're stuck. We have these people we can't do anything about, but these are these things we want. Here are some tweets about things we want here, but you're in power, you know, and Biden. So shitlibs will argue with you on this Medicare for all privatization point, and they will say, well, this was started under Trump, but it's been expanded under Biden. It wasn't just started under Trump. It's been expanded under Biden. And if Biden was pushing back against it and has no power to stop, because it would take an act of Congress to change some of the laws that have caused this, but he has the bully pulpit. He should be out in the public, even if it's just for political points, so Democrats don't lose in the midterms. He should be fighting against that publicly.
Right. Absolutely.
And he's not, because he supports it at the end of the day.
Exactly. Because he got a ton of money from the people who support it and who enrich themselves off of other people's lives. Ugh, this clown.
Yeah. So instead they're trying to push this Affordable Care Act expansion, closing a loophole that allowed what was it? So single parents couldn't qualify for Affordable Care Act if they worked and had children or so. I don't know. I forget, because I'm 2 beers in, and that's I should not forget after 2 beers.
Yeah, I mean, all the means testing and the loopholes that would prevent certain people, and also just the prices, right? The prices have gone up. The premium prices have gone up since the Affordable Care Act passed, right? So we still have 30 million people who are uninsured, even more who are underinsured. And once again, we know that, you know, a third of the people who have died from COVID in this country Right now we're at 1,330,000 people. It's linked to having lack of health care, right? I mean, it's an abomination. And this is hilarious. So all these people who went and talked against Bernie and against universal health care, Medicare for all, for the last 7 years, and, you know, it's a sky pony or whatever the hell, unicorn. And now when it finally affects them, they are, you know, stunned. $639 a month is probably a bargain compared to what a lot of uninsured people have to pay. But now that it affects David Axelrod, he's going to tweet.
Yeah, well, that's the question. I mean, and the answer is they're full of shit. But the question is, are they being sincere about this and realizing and coming to the correct point now? No. Now that they're in power and actually have the ability to change this stuff, they're acting like they can't. But they strategically, a few more Democrats will get this done. So get us, you know, this is their hope to get to the midterms, is to start campaigning in Biden's, you know, he's barely had a year in office. And they're already campaigning instead of actually legislating.
Yeah. Well, because it's all just a grift on some level, right? Like they know what's popular, which is why they pretend to support access to healthcare. I mean, I think Biden even just tweeted out something like healthcare is a right, not a privilege. I mean, how dare he? How dare he when he's fighting so hard against it? But they know what's popular. And so that whole idea of like reaching across the aisle is always so disingenuous. It's so dishonest because the across the aisle of people in this country want Medicare for all, right? But the people in Congress, except for like 6 of them, none of them wants that because they're all making tons of money off of the healthcare lobby.
100%. And instead of responsibly handling COVID, I mean, we're, you know, COVID coverage for uninsured people is basically coming to an end. Copays are starting to happen for people who do have insurance as well. So, you know, and where did the COVID money go? A lot of this COVID money went to police forces.
I mean,
you Democrats ran on, you know, I'm not
George
defunding
Floyd
the police,
and
but on
like Black Lives Matter, right?
Right, 100%. And instead we've got Eric Adams in New York, just total scumbag. I mean,
yeah. And I think, I mean, I know we don't even have this on our wheel, but horrific shooting yesterday, just terrible. But as the details came out, with what do they have? $10 billion is their police budget in New York. The cameras
New York's police budget. No, well, New York's police budget is bigger than most countries.
Most countries' military budget.
Military budget, exactly.
Yeah. In New York City, one city, and the cameras in the Brooklyn station weren't there. The police who were first there as people were exiting the subway, their radios weren't working. They were asking bystanders to use their phones to call 911. And then it turns out, well, I heard 2 different things. One is, you know, people on the ground were helping victims, not police, but just like, you know, doctors and regular people walking around. And some guy who worked at a store near there helped point out who the actual perpetrator was. But then I also heard that he called himself in and ratted himself out. But anyway, the police presence not only didn't stop this shooting, they also didn't find the suspect. And they didn't help the people on the ground when it was happening. I mean, it was a complete failure on every single level. And what are we going to do? Give them more money.
It's amazing. I have a personal story unrelated to this, but it just reminds me of how ineffectual the police are. I took a neighbor to get gasoline to fill up a tank of gas for his car to take home. And meanwhile, I looked inside the store. I'm waiting outside in the car. And there was obviously a robbery going on, gun being waved around, and he was getting held up at gunpoint and robbed. And long story short, it was like 15 minutes and all these guys left the place and jumped the fence. I watched it all happen. Police show up, lock everyone in the place, and then lock them all in there, interview them all, don't talk to me. I'm trying to talk to the police. So that they didn't approach an actual witness to the event.
Right.
We finally left, and the guy said, my friend said, well, the cops thought it was like some guy who left in an El Camino or something like that. I'm like, I saw they jumped the fence over there, and these guys didn't even talk to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's just crazy. The police are ineffective. That's the bottom line. Our
They
police
really
system
are.
needs to be
Yeah.
revamped, reimagined.
But that's not going to happen with Democrats in power, unfortunately, or Republicans. So I don't know what's going to happen. But in the meantime, and I know we're going to get to all the COVID stuff, but like, as they're telling us to just live with it, we have millions of people who aren't getting tested because it costs money, can't get treated because that costs money. So, you know, when all the fancy people get COVID and they say, oh, I'm so glad I'm boosted, they get the, what is it? The Paxlovid that we don't even have enough dosages of for the whole country anyway, but most people won't be able to afford it. Yeah.
It's a mess. All right, moving on.
Mess.
Let's
Yeah,
move on
let's
before
spin it. I need a
lose
shot.
I need a shot more than you need a shot. I'm gonna grab a second beer while I spin. Let's go, baby.
Right
Yeah,
now,
baby.
Yeah. Oh, you see that?
The universe
What's it called?
has
Yeah,
answered
when
us.
When you, God, there goes my, see, that's what happens when you get
Is there a French saying you can fill this out
I
with?
know. After I pulled that French saying out, I'm done. Like I've taxed my brain as much as possible. You know, I imagined it. What's it called when you make something happen? Help me
Something
out.
schwa, like I know what you're going for. I do.
I manifested it.
Oh, that was no-
Okay. It's all still there.
Some
Cheers
Tony
to my
Robbins shit.
brilliant brain
right.
work. Yeah, Tony
Cheers.
Robbins.
Thank you
totally.
guys for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm not at my sharpest, I'll be honest, but we'll wing it.
Manifest it. Manifest those brains.
That'll help. That will help.
At least I won't notice as much that I can't come up with my words.
Let's check
All
the
right.
comments. Obviously, we need more police. Yeah.
Yep.
More police is going to help a lot.
At
We're
least more money.
capitalists.
Yeah.
I'm just happy we can buy them more. The Paxlovid they need. That's important.
Paxlovid. That sounds so Russian. Paxlovid.
Oh my God, you're right.
You can ban it.
All right, let's get to a topic.
Yeah, baby.
Well, until yesterday, we were told that they were going to stop forcing people to mask on public transit and planes, but just at the last minute, ruining our whole segment, they have now come back to say that
Well, they extended it for 2 weeks. I mean,
COVID will be over in 2 weeks.
Right. In 2 weeks, they're going to take a look at things and reevaluate.
Yeah.
But basically, they were going to let people fly and do whatever. And they're trying, no masking on international flights. I mean,
testing to
it's
re-enter.
insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you know who we always have with the best takes is your favorite doctor, Dr. Wen.
Oh my God. Dr. Wen. You know what? I've been really thinking about parodying her.
Oh yeah.
That would be a good parody because she's so awful.
Let me give you a taste of it. Here's Dr. Wen.
Give him a taste.
I do. Right. So, Fred, I do want to first distinguish between the Rose Garden ceremony with President Trump back in 2020. That was September 26th, I believe, of 2020, before vaccines were widely available. And so it's a totally different situation now that we have. I think it's very reasonable for the president or anyone to be holding events outdoors and indoors because we have vaccines that are available, as well as treatments and testing and masks and things that were not widely available back in 2020. But yes, it is only a matter of time before President Biden, Vice President Harris, and basically all of us get COVID. I would not be surprised if President Biden comes down with COVID in the coming days and weeks. And that's because of how prevalent COVID is. When you look at the surge, the Omicron surge, 50% of Americans got Omicron. And so we have to prepare for when that happens.
You don't have to prepare for when that happens. You can actually try to use some mitigating factors to prevent that from happening. I mean, we're just throwing our hands up and saying, fuck it.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that under Trump it would be a different scenario from the press is just that's another piece to this. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine any doctor coming on TV and saying, well, it makes sense that Trump is stopping all this stuff while COVID is still rampant and we have another wave. And, and this is the thing that people, I think, realize on the left, the progressives like us, is like, we don't like Trump, but if Trump was president, there'd be pushback from the media and more people would be on board with things like stimulus checks, and eventually they'd have to capitulate. But there's no pressure for any of those kind of things on the media anymore. So we're in this situation where our normie Dem friends that watch TV they legitimately think, like, don't worry about COVID so much because we have the good treatments now.
And they've also been lied to and told that the country was ready to move on. And we know that every single poll up through just about a month ago said that Dems especially, but across the board, were in favor of prevention or some kind of mitigation, mask mandates, especially in school. So, but they just kept lying. They had every single op-ed writer in legacy media writing, pieces about how it was time to move on. And so this is where we are. This is interesting. So 80 of approximately 630 White House officials contracted COVID at that Gridiron Club dinner this month. So that's the one that they're referring to. And this is what I think is really important for everybody to know. Well, first of all, two things. One is we still don't have the number of the staff. They were all forced to wear masks, thankfully. I mean, it actually protected them, even though it's such a horrible optic to see all the fancy people maskless being served by people who have masks over their face. I mean, that really does sort of support these sort of right-wing wingnut theories about what this is all about. Sometimes it's hard to argue that. But I also think I argue against it. But I think this stat is really important. So on December 16th, Biden said that this will be a winter of severe illness and death if you're unvaccinated. But according to CDC data, 41% of the COVID deaths in January were fully vaccinated. Right.
So do you think Dr. Wen could go on TV and have this discussion like she's having if 40% of if that was public knowledge, if that was being pushed by the media, that 40% of people are vaccinated?
I mean,
and they're dying of COVID. I mean, ask your friends who are normal Democrats. Just ask them how many people, what percentage of people do you think of the dead from COVID now are vaccinated?
Well, because the only numbers that they would release were the rates of infection, right? And of course, it's much better to be vaxxed than not. And I think it was something like, a 10% of all of the infections, right? Or if you were vaccinated, you had like a 12 times less likely chance of getting it. But because of the sheer numbers, the actual numbers, 41% of deaths were fully vaccinated patients. And that would change people's, exactly what you're saying. That would change people's estimation of all this. And I think there'd be a lot more pushback.
Because she's right in that her ultimate story or narrative is that we should calculate our own risk. So she just wants the government to not be involved in this anymore. And we should all calculate our own risk. But that's very Trumpian. I mean, if you are asking people to calculate their own risk, they need to be educated in their own risk. And that's the piece being entirely left out by the media. The media is not portraying the actual risk involved to people right now.
And they've allowed the CDC to get away with changing the metrics of how to calculate when it's risky and when it's not. So a map that we used to show on the CDC website that would be all, orange and red and deep purple now looks green, because what they're actually reporting are hospitalizations, which is different from infections and community spread. It's a lagging indicator, right? Like you find out after the spread has already gone wild. And so people have first of all, public health should not be an individual response. I mean, right? It should not be an individual response. But you can't even have, as you just said, a well-informed individual response if you're not getting the data, and they're not giving us the data. So it's a
right. And you've got so Philadelphia has reinstated its indoor mask mandate, right? Which is a reasonable response. I mean, it's ridiculous that the mask mandate has been lifted, in my opinion. I don't care.
Agree, yeah.
Look, vaccines are one thing, but masks are another, and masks are a simple thing everyone can do. I have no sympathy for people that won't wear a mask. I don't give a shit. But here she is fighting back on that. She's like against. Oh, this is not her. Wait, where is she on Philadelphia? She's pushing back against Philadelphia. So she's for like individual freedoms, like you should make that choice yourself. But Philadelphia made that choice because of the data.
Right.
And she's actually coming out against the data. This is the person people used to trust. And I mean, I think this is all by design, because initially she was very anti. She was an ally, apparently. Yep. She appeared as a very reasonable voice, semi pushing back against the Biden administration, and then she pivoted overnight.
Well, it really makes you wonder who is funding her or what her aspirations are, because this is not based in science. She has a different objective. Her goal is not to prevent infection. Her goal right now is to make this country, that's right, make people feel it's normal, back to work, and capital's up and running until we all die. I mean, what is going to happen in a country with no universal health care, where a third of the cases, even of very mild infection, end up in long COVID? How is that going to end up with our workforce?
And there's literally no discussion of long COVID effects on mainstream media. Like it's not even a thing. It's not at all, ever. And the other piece of this is that she thinks we should all start flying again.
And remove testing requirement for international travel, right?
Yeah. So her logic is, well, we don't,
we already have so much COVID here
domestically.
Right. And then we already have so much here. But if you wanted to have a petri dish of an even more contagious and virulent variant, what you do is keep introducing them into a country that has a fairly decent size of people who have been vaccinated, and let those variants learn and grow and mutate to become even more infectious and even deadlier. So, and we haven't even talked for a few weeks about the fact that Bill Gates and all of, the World Health Organization aren't vaccinating the world, and we're not releasing the patents or putting pressure on Moderna and Pfizer to release the patent and let the global South create the vaccine or replicate it and vaccinate their people, so that we could actually put an end to this. Like, if you are truly only a vaccine only person and you don't want any other mitigating tactics, then at least vaccinate the world. And we're not doing that. And she even wants more variants to come into the US.
But that's where Jen Psaki is going to clear this all up for us.
Question. You said on Friday that the vice president was masked indoors all day, but the White House tweeted a video showing her standing over the president without a mask on. Can you explain what happened there?
Well, I would say that the vice president and the president and all of us abide by what the CDC protocols are. It was an emotional day. It was a historic day. And there were moments when she was not wearing a mask inside, including in a photo. But she was wearing it 99.9% of the time.
Listen.
She came in like a stocky bomb. She came in.
All right, I got it. That shitty tone that she takes with an incredibly, logical question, because does COVID just stop spreading because you're having an emotional day or a landmark event of a new Supreme Court justice? I think that's what she was talking about, right? Like, so, well, it was emotional, so COVID knows to stop because, there's a good photo op.
Yeah, they got out of control. We're having too much fun, so they just threw out. And her defense is the CDC, which is Biden's policy. Like, let's stop
I know.
pretending the CDC is anything other than Biden's
Independent for
policy.
science. I know.
Like, oh,
following
we're just doing what they told us at the CDC, which is
what we told
entirely
them to tell us to do. Yeah.
what we told them to tell us to do. So,
all right, let's spin the wheel. Depressing. Unless, do you have something else you want to talk about?
Oh, the smartest person that has ever chatted in our comments here.
You can just shut it down at the first part. I enjoy Pat's parody.
I agree. I agree. I don't want to get her more attention, but she's going to be on MSNBC next. Like, her next job is literally a paid pundit on MSNBC, which all these shitlibs are like applauding her for. Like, didn't the Democratic Party have it? Yeah, they're raising money on sending a pundit to MSNBC. Like the whole staff at MSNBC aren't on the payroll already, and they're raising money off it.
Look at that, the DSCC. Are you happy with how, and even they phrase it, how President Biden and Jen Psaki have worked to speak truth, combat disinformation, keep Americans informed on their bold agenda. Donate here.
Did you complete the survey? Is that why that was 50%?
No. I started writing it. It was like, do you approve of Jen Psaki? I was like, no. Do you, but then it starts being like, are you worried about Trump? And like the way they phrase it, I was like, oh, either way I write this, they're going to get the wrong. So I just had to do a screenshot. And
somehow your information is going to be used in a poll against Bernie.
Exactly. I did send them $50 though. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you had to.
You got my recurring payment.
That's the only thing.
Spin it. Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
My God, look at all those shots untaken.
I know, it's gonna be a crazy second half of the show. Holy shit. All right, do we just start with the video of the man of the hour?
People power. So obviously, look, we want to highlight some good things, and we have some power. And right now, our power is labor. And thank God for people like Chris Smalls taking it to the man. Amazon. Well, where's the video? Do you have it queued up?
Yeah, I got it. Ooh, look at me. Here I go.
Books, free food, just doing things that the employers won't ever do. That also plays a big factor. Paying for somebody's Uber ride to the hospital or to their house because they're too tired to take the bus. Paying a worker's cable bill. That's why we had to use money for the GoFundMe as well. We're helping workers out. Whether it's a cable bill, a phone bill, whether it's COVID relief, because Amazon didn't pay their full wage, they only pay 60%. How can people sustain their livelihood with not getting a full check? So we tried to help out, making GoFundMes for people that need housing or people that just got fired. The union did all of these things, and to become a union, that's all it takes is people coming together. Who makes unions in 2022? I know it's different, but anybody in America, anybody in the world can do it. Y'all just witnessed it. Y'all can do it in your workplace, no matter what industry you're in. And, you need our support and our advice. We're here. We're very accessible. I had the same number for 10 years, and I encourage people to reach out, DM us. We're going to get to everybody. I know there's a lot of people reaching out and we haven't responded yet. But that's only because we're swamped and we're trying to, navigate through this moment. But we will have a national call where we will address everybody, especially Amazon workers who want to unionize and beyond. So just stay tuned, stay connected, and get into the revolution because the time is now. I think we saw that when the pandemic started, that everything was under a microscope. That's why I look at 2020 with 2020 vision to the issues that's wrong with this country. And now is the time to fix them, and we're witnessing the revolution. Power to all people.
Come on. That's good. That's chills right there. Yeah, you got to love
We are witnessing the revolution. I wish it could be bigger, but here's the thing. All these protests, all these strikes, all these union wars show that we have power. It's the only thing showing people we have power right now.
Absolutely.
And if you look at it, that's why wages are going up. That's why there's an unemployment gap right now. It's because people have had enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And as he said, all it is people coming together. I mean, it's huge that they did that, but it's people supporting each other, coming together, taking care of each other, and that gives them the strength to fight against the powerful owners. So, I do think, listen, Amazon spent like $24 million trying to shut this down. They did that because they know it will cost them way more than that.
Well, yeah, and they did that because as he says, there are 100 more Amazon facilities ready to unionize. And it's the same thing at Starbucks. Starbucks, we got kudos to MA. Is that Massachusetts? I assume.
Yep. And
it's
I think
another
the one was in Buffalo, and it's spreading, right? It's like, it's infectious. It's contagious.
It is. It's absolutely infectious because people are, I mean, if you have a job, you realize, especially if you work for a corporation like Starbucks or Walmart or Amazon, it's clear as all day that you're getting abused in the situation.
That's right. As soon as they say we're family,
yeah.
There's a problem. Yeah. Give me a union. I don't need any more family.
So Etsy, even Etsy, people are like, Etsy's raising the fees they're charging people for no reason when they got bloody fucking rich. So Etsy people are on strike. What's the date on this? 11th through the 18th. So right now, please don't buy anything from Etsy. Please don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
As much as you love the Etsy folks.
These movements. It's so important. And it will, it bleeds over into everything, right? The stronger our labor unions are, the better protection we all have just as citizens in this country. So that is exciting. And then I saw this earlier today, the solidarity, which made me so happy. Where is it? I filed it here. Where is it?
I got it. Donziger. Whoops, I just took it off. There we go.
What? Yeah. So Stephen Donziger and Chris Smalls having a little bit of a get together, which is so cool. I know everybody knows, but Donziger is the lawyer who successfully sued Chevron for destroying, really destroying parts of, oh God, where was it? Where they were basically committing ecocide, was it in Colombia? I don't even know. Isn't that terrible? And then he has been on house arrest and sometimes even actual arrest for the last 2 years or more, because a Chevron judge, has more power than, regular citizens holding the horrific corporations to account. But that is what we need, more fighters. So that's a nice photo to remind us of the solidarity.
Well, so here I want to show this clip because this is the clip that normie Democrats see things like this right here. And they think, well, God damn it, Biden is pro-union. He's fighting hard for us. He can't do anything. He's only one man. We need more people in Congress. But it's clips like these that make the rounds on MSNBC, but they don't see the aftermath. But here's the actual clip of Biden.
That's what unions are about, in my view, about providing dignity and respect for people who bust their neck. That's why I created the White House Task Force on Worker Organization Empowerment, to make sure the choice to join a union belongs to workers alone. And by the way, Amazon, here we come. Watch.
And because we have corporate media that's absolutely derelict in their duty to hold the powerful accountable, they neglect to tell you that Amazon was just given a $10 billion contract and they're not supposed to get any federal contracts because they bust unions. But Biden and his administration just gave them $10 billion and also has done nothing to, he talks about having a task force, but then he doesn't actually follow through on any of the task force's recommendations to boost unionization in our country. So he can say those words. And as you said, normie Dems and the vote blue no matter who. Oh, yeah.
I do wonder why
it's
Biden is. Oh, I don't know why. So
it is a mystery.
look at that blue line is how much money Amazon gave to Democrats in 2020.
2020.
$11 million. Why did they give $11 million to them and not Republicans? Because they knew Biden was going to win, although he almost didn't, to be fair. But
yeah, and they knew exactly where their bread is buttered.
Yeah, but truthfully, Biden has been, a lot of Biden people in his circle have been very anti-union from the jump. The consultants backed Biden. Global Strategy Group, which was exposed for helping Amazon try to crush a union drive in New York. They have union clients too. 2 unions said they won't work with them again, but none of the firm's recent labor clients responded to our team. All right, so
and those are Democratic consultants.
And this is the problem. People come on, like the candidate we had on our show last week. People come on and they don't realize the whole story behind things. Like, you have to realize consultants. And this is why I warned her about consultants. Consultants from the Democratic Party are not consulting you to win your campaign. They are just making sure that you don't say things that hurt the capitalists running the show, the corporate donors to the Democratic Party. That's their main interest. They don't. You winning your campaign, if you're a small-time Democratic candidate somewhere, they don't give a shit about your campaign. They just want to keep you on track with not saying things that affect the establishment.
That is unfortunately the truth. And thank you to David Sirota and The Lever for doing such fantastic reporting and always going beyond the headline that mainstream media wants us to walk away with, because it would be very easy to watch that clip and just feel like, well, at least we're in better hands. But the truth is, it makes it so much worse, as it does with every issue, to have somebody who says the right words and then gets no pushback from people or the media.
And that's entirely Biden's whole presidency right there.
Yeah.
And it's the whole Democratic strategy is say the right thing and do nothing. And then everyone is happy on their end. All the donors are happy, period. And our other choice to that. So the choice is support the person who says the right things or the person who knows is a villain. And I will not support the person that we know is a villain. Right. But the reality is, under the person that's a villain, at least the press is going to call him out to try to get the other party in power. Right. And we have I don't know.
It just feels like an endless.
I don't feel like, I don't want to be an accelerationist, but I've been in this game long enough to realize that, like, there are some truths to getting better things under the other presidents.
Listen, whether you want it or not, what Biden is doing and the Democrats right now is a form of accelerationism, because we are going to get a Republican Congress in 2022 in the midterms, and we will likely get DeSantis or Trump again in 2024. And that is because of them. It's not because of the way we vote. It's because of their not fighting for the policies they know are popular and that they ran on, that people were counting on them for, that people stood in line during a global pandemic after, the biggest uprising for the George Floyd protests. And then they don't deliver on a single promise, not one. I can't think of a single thing that they've delivered on.
No, and it's twofold. We're going to lose the midterms handily. Like, we're going to lose for sure the Senate and the House, right? I mean, that's baked into the equation right now. But then Democrats are going to run on what? What are they going to run on? Like, that we couldn't get things done because we didn't have the House and the Senate. So it'll be 2 years of Republicans controlling the House and Senate. But the Republicans are going to get their base out.
That's right.
And we are not going to get our base out. They're going to get their base out by saying Democrats are the president, because the normie population just looks at the president.
Yeah.
And there's just no doubt that we are going to lose the presidency as well in 2024, unless an insurgent candidate comes up that actually can step away from Biden's record, because they've fought Biden's record for a long time and they have trust on the left.
Well, good luck with that. Let's see what happens. Spin the wheel.
Yeah, baby.
I'm just going to pour my shot. God damn it.
Okay. I mean, this is also depressing. There is no one in our mainstream media. There's even nobody in all of Congress who is talking about an off-ramp to this war all we are doing is sending more and more weapons, and eventually it's going to end. Eventually. So nobody will talk about what are the paths to peace, what are the negotiations. They are furthering their rhetoric, calling Putin a war criminal, then saying that he's committing genocide. War criminal, yes, for sure. Although, of course, we've got one in office right now. We had one in office in the last term, the one before that, the one before that. Like, when haven't we had a war criminal holding office in this country as the president of the United States? So for us to be calling Putin a war criminal, all that does is create, show the hypocrisy of the United States, but also it doesn't leave much room to work with somebody in the future in any negotiations or peace moving forward once you have labeled him a war criminal.
So I really want to show Claire Daly. I mean, I think we both everyone on the left can appreciate this, and I hope, I don't know. I hope this would it be
colleague Jambaski to tell me any circumstance in which NATO has played a productive role or delivered peace anywhere. History has taught us that sanctions do not end military conflicts. They do not bring peace. They make the people suffer, not the oligarchs, the people of Russia, the people of Europe. And they're not going to help save lives, because the more arms you pump into Ukraine, the more the war will be prolonged, the more Ukrainians will die. And it might sound radical, colleagues, but the answer to war is not more war, it's peace. And peace isn't delivered by the barrel of a gun, it's delivered by diplomacy, by dialogue. You can wish away your continent's history, but we share a continent with Russia. We will sit down with Russia. There will be a negotiated peace, and this organisation should be promoting it earlier rather than delaying it and making sure that more Ukrainians die. Your feigning of sympathy rings hollow. It makes me sick, to be honest with you.
I love her. God, why don't we have any of that here?
Imagine just one person. I mean, like Bernie was that person years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's going to do that now or should in his role, but
I mean, he did call out Democrats for saying that they are actually, we have the clip, wanting the Cold War because of the defense contractors. And now they can blame everything on it. We can, hey, fossil fuels, we need more of those. Inflation, it's because of Putin. I mean, I know that's a different deal, but like this fits into being able to blame everybody for the failures of the Democratic Party and our country. Honestly, we are giving them hundreds of millions of dollars while we have hundreds of thousands of people sleeping on the streets of our country.
Well, it's no surprise that we went from, we left Afghanistan, and it was obvious to most people that we were going to find a way to keep up that defense spending and all those military contractors. The war machine is running our government in general, along with the pharmaceutical industry. So those people, they have their hooks in our government so deeply that even if you support Ukraine, you can't look at this and not say, well, shit, clearly they have an interest to keep war alive and they run our government. So how do you look at anything coming out of this? How can an American be unpropagandized? Because we will never really know. There's no way for us to actually know, without studying more of the media outside of the US, because they will cover this stuff fairly occasionally.
Right.
But even outside the US, their media they are so concerned about US interests and US alliances that they won't even report on a lot of this stuff fairly. So
well, they are in Europe for sure. But I think I think that, well, obviously Claire Daly and Mick Wallace are both truth tellers. I think that a lot of the that's right. A lot of the global South is very aware of the hypocrisy of us calling Putin a war criminal. And of course, I support the people of Ukraine, which is, again, I mean, it's what Claire Daly said. It's why I don't want this war prolonged. Eventually, it will end, right? And how many people are we willing to sacrifice for our proxy war with Russia on the way
It will
to
end.
Yeah.
And the better Ukraine does on the ground efforts and the local stuff, the more they just get bombed from afar. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Right.
And we're gonna try the military industrial machine basically wants to basically they want to fund this forever. I mean, they would like this to just stay as it is with this forever war over there over anyway, I'm saying the obvious shit, but so we have the clip of someone from actually speaking for a change about the Global South's take on this.
Can you give us more of an idea, put a finer point on the kinds of commentary that are coming out of the Global South in this moment?
Well, it's quite fascinating to see what they say. I think it was quite interesting, a piece in The Guardian that quoted a gentleman who played a very important role in both in Amnesty International, but also for a major African organization, saying, for decades, the West has been ravaging and colonizing Africa, stealing its resources, etc. And then you had the Cold War, in which a lot of the wars between the United States and the Soviet Union were taking place in third countries, including in Africa. And now we're asked to allow that to happen again. And the comment was that just please don't bring your war to our shores. I thought it was quite fascinating that is the perspective. They see this as a European conflict about the European order, not about the global order. And as a result, they don't want to have any part of it. I've not picked up any particular hostility. And I think you're quite right. The hypocrisy is there. It's annoying. It's always been there. So it's not necessarily something new. What's new is that we're asking them to make sacrifices in order for us to continue to be hypocritical. That's where it's creating a problem. Because that's essentially what it is. We're not saying anything about that the future international order will be a much better one than it was before. That's not what we're saying. We're essentially saying that the old order was fantastic, and now we're asking the Global South to make sacrifices to uphold it, and they are not buying it.
So maybe, this is all horrific. Truly horrific. But I do think it's interesting to see who has signed on to be supportive of our efforts in arming Ukraine and the people who have not been there. And some of them, China, India, Africa, the Global South is not on board for sacrificing for another one of our corrupt wars that is only serving truly to decimate a country or two and create, millions of refugees and enrich their own pockets.
Yeah, and in one way, we're like, so we're okay with, we're creating the refugees in a sense that are coming out of Ukraine, and we're supporting the whole world is taking in these refugees from Ukraine. But what about Yemen?
Yeah.
Why is that different in a sense? Like what is it? I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is, but we know. So here's the clip of Bernie. I think I know my name is Pat the Burner on Twitter, and I love Bernie still. I think he's disappointing in some respects, but he's still going to be the leader, one of the leaders of the labor movement, and he's still one of the most outspoken voices in the Senate on foreign policy. So here's the clip of him.
For some of my colleagues, what's going on now is almost it brings forth a sigh of relief. You don't have to talk about ending childhood poverty. You don't have to talk about transforming our energy system. You don't have to talk about taxing billionaires or dealing with childcare or education or creating universal health care. You don't have to talk about that anymore, because we can go back to the good old Cold War. We have people to hate. We can spend more money on the military. And after all, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And I worry about that very much. So
I love him.
Manufacturing consent 101. You need a villain. You need something to keep people's focus on. And what a win for Biden to go to war in Ukraine.
The only reason he beat Trump was because of COVID, and now he's trying to become a wartime president. Although
It isn't
I don't
working.
think
I mean,
it's working.
we have the poll numbers. Are the poll numbers for another segment? I don't care. Let's show this.
They
poll
are,
numbers.
but we should just do it because I don't know. It's already 6. We got a lot of stuff to
Is it
share
6?
here.
Jesus, I've been
I
rambling
know.
with no point for so long. Where is it?
Well, basically
All right,
this week has been, or these last 2 days, is they're testing the Putin price hike. That's all it is. The Putin price hike. They're going to blame everything on the Putin price hike. Right? It's all because of Putin.
Yeah. Wait, we have that clip here. It's Putin.
World, China and Ukraine and Russia are not doing what they usually do, so everything's going up. We saw today's inflation data. 70% of the increase in prices in March came from Putin's price hike in gasoline. We need to address this challenge with an urgency that demands. That's why I've called on.
Just so we're all clear, let's just look at the price hikes and when they actually happen, because this is a Dem talking point right now. This is the reality. U.S. inflation versus has Putin invaded yet? And I'm so sorry because I don't know who this was. I saw it online today. And I would love to credit this, but I think it's really important to see the price hikes, the ridiculous amount of CEO and corporate, inflation happened way before February of 2022. So they can talk about Putin price hike, but that's not the where it started.
It's garbage. I mean, you've got Biden flaunting lowering, paying off the deficit, the most ever in 1 year in the middle of a pandemic. We have a pandemic. He should be spending money, not saving money, not paying off old debts. Can you imagine just paying off I paid off my student loan debts. My grandma died because she didn't have healthcare coverage, and I didn't put any money towards that. But I paid off my student loan debts. That's essentially what this is when you brag about paying off the deficit.
It's a disaster. And as you were saying, his poll numbers are just in the tank because he doesn't do anything for anybody. I'm looking for but we all know that that's what's happening. What were you about to say? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, well, the blame game has gone from, Putin. So Putin's responsible for everything wrong this is the problem with Democrats. Right now, their only strategy is to blame Putin for everything wrong in the U.S. Right. Meanwhile, Biden has the power to sign away all these things that could help all these people, and everybody can see that he's not doing it. So anyway, Biden's on one hand, he's saying it's all because of Putin, and then on the other hand, they're trying to say that this whole war with Putin and in Ukraine is Biden being a hero because he galvanized the world against him. So to Joe voter, they're looking at this even with the propaganda, and they're saying, well, you gave me two mixed messages. You're claiming this war is your move, and that's why inflation is fucked. Right. So they're connecting the dots regardless of the propaganda.
That's right. Well, and also just, they talk about kitchen table issues. Nobody, but how many people in this country have been directly affected by this global pandemic, not having healthcare, not making living wages, having astronomical, burdensome debt that just crushes you for your whole life. And to be told that now you have to sacrifice more for a war with a country across the world that we all know for decades we've been warned against the escalation of NATO, that this is what would happen. And I'm not excusing Putin. Yes, he is a war criminal. What he's doing is disgusting. But also there were other roads we could have taken leading up to this.
We absolutely escalated this war. There's no denying we escalated this.
And so for what? For all of the people in our country suffering, why should they sacrifice any more than they already have? They are already sacrificing for the profits of the oil and gas CEOs, for the profits of, Tesla and Amazon and Walmart and Starbucks. I mean, we have been sacrificing in this country for decades. And to ask people to sacrifice even more right now when you came in and you were supposed to be, the answer to Trump, there's just no message they can run on now. They've sealed their fate.
Yeah, what do they have? And all they have, if you've been on Twitter recently, you realize, I would hope, that they're ramping up their paid propaganda, and it's all blame voters, blame people who won't, support.
Put on your big boy pants.
Yeah,
I love that one.
it's
Put on your
time
big boy pants and compromise with the right, with the fascist right. Like, I don't say that Biden is like Trump because I like Trump. Like, the reason I criticize the Democrats who act like Republicans is because they're taking up the space of the opposition. They're taking up the space of the people who are supposed to be fighting these fascists on the right. And instead, they're just reaching across the aisle.
Yeah, so since we bled into the Dem blame game, let's show Sorota's clip, because I think this crosses a lot of territories.
I've been trying to tell people for years, anybody who will listen, that student debt and Joe Biden are really a 40-year story. That you have to understand how motivated he has been, how much he believes in the idea of student debt. He has been a sculptor of the laws that govern debt in this country for 40 years. His Justice Department has actually, and Education Department has been appealing rulings, trying to overturn rulings in individual cases where a judge says this or that piece of student debt can be discharged because this debtor is in such dire straits. They're trying to overturn those rulings despite his pledges. And so what I am worried about, all this is to say, I'm thinking a lot about this, which is, if you want to tell people not to believe anything politicians say, if you really want to deeply disillusion and not believe the government will ever fully do something concrete, permanent to help, that seems to be the message that Joe Biden seems to be trying to deliver, which on so many things, which is, I'm going to go out and say I'm going to do this thing, and then I'm going to do like a half-assed version of it, or I'm not going to use my executive authority to do it, or I'm going to pass the buck and say Congress needs to do it. And all of the meta messages, just don't believe the government can do anything.
Well, I feel like we owe our whole show today to David Sirota. That was a great clip from Useful Idiots. But yeah, it really, if you want to crush voter spirit and make people non-voters, that is what you do. Exactly right. Well, this has been a really fun show.
But what is going to motivate the base is the point. I mean, there's this all, it's baked into the equation now. The Democrats are going to lose, because the only people that want to believe in Democrats, like the people most informed about the Democrats, don't believe in the Democrats. The normie Democrats are seeing, they're coming to the light that, holy fuck, he's not doing the most basic things. They disagree with them on COVID. That's just one huge issue that could be a thing. They see, everybody's seeing the gas prices. So the gas prices go up, which affect inflation, and inflation is affecting every single product you need, buy. Prices are through the roof. Inflation's at 8.5%. Is it? I mean, like 8.5%, and it's going to get worse.
Wages aren't tied to that, right? So yeah,
it's going to get worse. And so they're going to lose the midterms. And what is the strategy when they lose the midterms is the point. Like, it's all going to get exponentially worse. So waking people up now is the best shot we have at
forcing their hand to try to do something before the midterms, right? Because this is our last shot. But I mean, they won't. They won't, because their donors don't want them to, and they don't really care about any of it. And, we're already getting fed, there already are articles being written and op-eds about how, Democrats have to tack right to get those ever elusive, Romney Republican voters, or the soccer mom minivan, suburban women, and it's all going to be about social justice issues. And
but
then
on the other hand, did you see that? I mean, I know you saw it. The video of the guy running against one of the worst Republicans on earth. This is our savior against the terrible Republicans right here. This is the Democratic strategy.
I love when people are like, you have a moderate policy, you lost my vote. Oh, what vote was that? Was that the vote you were going to give to some Bernie wannabe whose overkill policies are unpopular with 75% of voters, just so you could feel good about yourself until they lose the general election, at which point you'll point your finger and blame someone else? That vote? Oh, honey, your vote got lost a long time ago. Democrats need to wake up. Jesus, in order to legislate, we have to win. Go to walkerforcolorado.com and stop complaining.
Whoo! To not get my vote even harder. He's working on it.
How could you make me vote for a Nazi? I mean, that might do it. It wouldn't actually do it, but like I wouldn't. How can you vote for that guy?
That's not energizing the left
at all. It's disgusting, and that's going to be a model. People on MSNBC are going to be like parading that clip around, like more people need to run on this. Like they need to run on this. This is how you win.
Yeah.
People like Claire. What's her last name? Who cares? But people that become pundits, Claire McCaskill, people that lose their own races because they weren't progressive, end up with jobs on MSNBC to coach the public on how Democrats should run to win their races.
Right.
Make that make sense.
Yeah. And then they blame the voters for wanting what is the strategy to accomplish the goals? Why do people become politicians? What material benefit are you fighting for your people who vote for you? And what I think we're all realizing, or have realized now for quite some time, is that Dems are much more comfortable being out of power and raising money off of the policies, pretending to champion the policies they know are popular, and then they get in office and they do nothing. And I think part of the reason that Barack Obama exits his money cave every once in a while to crush a union or a strike, or Bernie Sanders or whatever, is because he was so woefully inadequate. He could have done so much more at the time. There was a huge global financial meltdown, and he did almost nothing to help people, and came up with the Republican Mitt Romney Heritage Foundation plan for healthcare. And if he had done, if anybody does more than that, all that will do is mar his legacy even more in retrospect.
And I think what's important is he only passed that legislation because there was a movement at the time, because people recognized it was needed. And when there's a big push for things, like when there's a big push for a massive change and you give them a teeny change and you say that's all we can ever accomplish, you're not helping the movement of the push for the big change. You're defeating the movement for a big change. And that's the ultimate thing that Obama accomplished, is he made people think healthcare was going to get better. And all Obamacare did was slow the increase in profits. I bring this up once in a while because it's important. He didn't decrease he slowed the increase. So the increase, it still went up for insurance companies and big pharma. They kept making more money.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think it's actually even gotten steeper in the last several years. So, it was a failure on every level apart from the health insurance industry. They love it. It's the best thing ever. Their profits are through the roof.
I know we've been on for a while.
Yeah,
but
we got to go. Tell me.
Do we have to go, or do we spin the wheel and drink shots until we land on something?
Oh, dude, no. We got to go. But don't you have some great ending? Do we do another? Okay. Do we have to do one more shot?
I feel like we do. And one of these is not even legit. So if we only have one left, but I'm going to do it. I don't care.
Yeah, baby.
What a shock.
What are the chances? What are the chances All right. This is a good way to go out.
This is how we go out. This is how we end our podcast. And I say something like, support
Cheers.
Nazis or something. Anyway,
Oh my
cheers.
God.
I already did my shot. I did my shot.
Oh, you did? All right. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Here's to better days. People power. I'd vote for Chris Smalls.
Chris Smalls for president.
Yeah, baby.
That's the one we got.
All right. Put on
All
your
right,
big boy pants, everybody, and compromise.
I mean, we have stuff we didn't show. What do we got? We got
Your adult pants. Yeah. No, the GOP does not deserve power ever again. But unfortunately, neither does the DNC. They are doing nothing to help people. Yeah. Budget an extra $5,200 this year to cover rising prices. Just put down the avocado toast.
Do you know when Americans can't, like, over half of Americans can't afford a $600 bill to suddenly come upon them, and then you've got Bloomberg, which obviously all Americans relate to Bloomberg. I mean, people at Starbucks.
He's got his finger on the pulse for sure.
$5,200. So we're supposed to save $5,200. I mean,
no, it's disgusting. Wait, we need to end on something happy and good.
Yeah, baby.
No. Overridden. All right, we will end it soon.
Okay, last one.
I'm holding her hostage right now.
I mean, truly. Oh my God. I still have to drink my wine, everybody.
I haven't hit my stride. I feel like this whole entire show I've been out of it, so that's okay.
Okay.
You carry me every week, Lila.
Oh, isn't that sweet? That's not true at all.
this.
We carry each other. We have a blast. But it is 6:15, and
Fair.
I think it's time to say goodbye. Hey, let's hope that there's some movement, positive movement, so that next week we're not like World War III, COVID, blaming the left and Putin.
That's true.
Let's manifest something positive happening.
So just because it's going to make you uncomfortable, I'm going to play our Unsober Thoughts clip. Let's go. I love cursing you.
A new segment that we will be doing where we have some prepared
It's a
remarks.
teaser. I get it's a teaser.
And we end on a final thought of unsober thoughts, but I got nothing. I think I vomited out.
I just
all
came
my
up with what.
unsober thoughts.
No,
Okay,
obviously
go, tell me.
I'm not planning much for this show. We know this. We both know.
Tell
I'm
me.
just
Tell me
waiting.
what's your
I'm waiting.
unsober thought.
I'm hoping Jen Psaki is right and Biden gets a terrible case of COVID and that it wakes the public up. That's all I'm hoping. That's my unsober thought.
Manifest that, Psaki.
It would be. I'm gonna do some yoga.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Here's to better days. We sure need them. Until next week, keep punching up. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.